One of my favourite backpacks of last year, the VSGO Black Snipe, now comes in a slightly larger 25 litre version, along with having a couple of design changes and upgrades that will probably make this my main camera backpack for 2024 moving forward. So let's get into my overview and review of this new Black Snipe backpack after using it over the last couple of weeks. So let's get started with the outside of the backpack, and if you've seen the 20 litre version of the Black Snipe backpack that I've reviewed previously, then you're going to be very familiar with the overall design language of this 25 litre version. In terms of overall build quality and materials, just like the last VSGO backpack, this bag feels very well built and the materials feel very premium, especially on the outside of the bag where it's using this TPU coated canvas that so far seems very scratch resistant and water resistant and just very hard wearing in general. I own a ton of other expensive camera bag brands like Peak Design, Wandered and Nomatic for example, and VSGO do a really good job of giving you a similar sort of build and quality to their bags while still being quite a bit less expensive than those brands. Overall, I am a fan of the general design of this backpack. It is pretty understated and sleek, like it's not covered in branding and logos like you get with some other camera backpacks, and I feel overall that it doesn't really scream camera backpack, which is something I appreciate in camera bags. But at the same time, it does look expensive, so I guess it still may attract a little bit of attention just because of that. The whole backpack weighs in at 1.8 kilograms, which is actually pretty lightweight when you take into consideration the amount of gear that you can store in this 25 litre backpack. But overall, there has been a little bit of an increase in the dimensions, obviously going from 20 litres to 25 litres. So here is a quick look at how the backpack looks on the back of me and my wife, just so you can get a feel for the size of the bag. Alright, so for me on the outside of the bag, the highlight of the design is of course this top access area that you access using this rotatable FID lock on the front of the flap. I do like this design as I am overall a huge fan of top access as a way to get my camera out on the fly, and I do like the fact as well that this FID lock is magnetic, so it means that you can pretty much just let go of that top flap and it just locks itself back into place, so that is really convenient. And I guess it's kind of a little bit of extra security because you've got to know what you're doing with this rotatable clasp to open this top flap, so if somebody's trying to get in your backpack quickly without you knowing, you're probably going to feel them tugging on this thing trying to work out how to use it, so I guess that can only be a good thing. This backpack also gives you tons of attachment points for mounting additional things to the outside of the bag, whether that be a water bottle with a carabiner or a tripod, for example, which does bring me onto these side pouches, which can hold a pretty sizable tripod or water bottle, thanks to just how expandable they are. They also have these really easy to use, quick adjust side straps, so you can really secure in your tripod and make adjustments to that on the fly really easily, which I love because having that along with just how much sort of strength is in the stretch of these pouches, your tripod really is in there solid. There's none of that like annoying wobbling around that you get when you're walking that I have with some of my other backpacks. This backpack also has side access as another means to quickly access your gear, but unfortunately it is only on one side of the bag. But both of these zippable side pouches also offer storage solutions, which I really like because I've used these to store things like ND filters, for example, in the side pocket for additional quick access. Also, this top handle is by far the most comfortable top handle of any backpack I've ever used. I don't know if I mentioned that on the last VSGO bag I reviewed, but it was the same with that one. Even when it's absolutely packed out with heavy gear, this handle is just so soft and plush. So that's one of my favorite things about this bag too. Another thing though that I really love about this bag, and again did with the last VSGO bag, is these kind of luggage feet that you get on the bottom of the backpack. So even when, again, it is packed out with gear, this backpack always stands up by itself consistently, which I really like because there's nothing worse than like most of my other backpacks that when they're packed out with gear or even empty, to be honest, they just refuse to stand up on their own. So that's really easy when you're traveling around a lot and you can just put this bag down and know that it's going to stay stood up wherever you leave it. Before we move on to the back of the backpack, there's a few other things at the front worth mentioning, such as this sizable front pouch that is secured by a magnet at the top. You can only really get thin things in here, so probably pretty handy for, say, your phone or lens caps, for example. And I don't think it was on the last backpack, so that will be really useful if I remember that it's there. And the final thing is that on the side access zipper for the side pouch, you have this metal attachment that is a straight edge that is really, really handy for removing things like tripod quick release plates, for example. That's pretty much the only use I found for it so far. I'm sure there's probably other things you could use this for, so that is a nice touch too. All right, onto the back of the bag, where a lot of thought has been put in to make sure that this bag is comfortable, and it has paid off. Between this super thick but breathable padded section at the top of the back of the bag, where the majority of the weight is going to lie when you pack this bag out, and the fact that it has some of the most plush and thick, comfortable straps of any bag I've used, means that this is easily my favorite backpack right now in terms of comfort. Even when packed out with gear, the straps don't dig in, and I'm often taking out, say, 2 or 3 camera bodies, including sometimes a cinema camera, and I've always been really impressed with the comfort of this bag. The last VSGO bag was really good in that regard, and they've just made further improvements here, making a thicker padded back section and further improvement to the design and thickness of these straps. A nice touch is definitely this quick adjusting sternum strap, which slides up and down easily, so it's easy to get it in a comfortable position. But I do wish that this main buckle in the middle was magnetic. Just makes it a lot easier to attach and detach using one hand. Another thing I really like on the back of the backpack is this strap that allows you to pick up the bag almost duffel bag style. So again, when traveling, if you're laying the camera bag down, it's really handy to be able to pick it up that way too. All right, so I think that's everything on the outside of the bag. So let's dive inside the bag and check out the storage options here. All right, let's take a look at the top access area of this backpack, which is sectioned off using a really strong top divider. It's really annoying in other backpacks where this divider is just secured by Velcro alone and heavy gear can just fall right through it. VSGO have done the best job I've seen with this, as it secures really strongly, and you're also free to position it in 2 different positions depending on how large you want this top access area to be. And again, it secures by looping through a tab that means it is not going to move once you've got your heavy gear in there. And this top section can carry a lot, whether it be a collapsed gimbal or a drone, for example, or how I use it. I like to use it with my Canon C70, in this case with a 50mm 1.2 prime lens, although it's usually the 15-35, and I just love how spacious this top area is. It makes it really versatile, and for me it is my most used area of the backpack when I'm traveling, so it's definitely got my favorite top access section of any bag I've used so far. They've also made big improvements since the last backpack in terms of water resistance with this top access area, where they've added this extra cinchable material to the top that completely covers this top access area. So even through that, when it's closed and you may have a little bit of a gap at the side, it is completely secured off from moisture now. You can completely remove that top platform though, and this makes it easy to store, for example, a camera with a long lens that can be accessed from the top and stored down like this. I don't have any longer lenses than this 70-200, but you could easily store something like the RF 100-500, so that will definitely make wildlife photographers happy. The main storage compartment of this backpack is also hugely spacious and adjustable. The dividers are very strong and versatile too, without being too thick and taking up too much space in this back compartment. And I really love that this backpack lets me store my longer lenses like the RF 70-200 stud up, which is actually quite a rarity, and I tend to have to lay this lens down like this in pretty much every other backpack I own, but in this one I can have it stood up like this. And not having to lay your larger lenses down means that it really increases the amount of gear that you can store in this backpack, And again, even when you stand these larger lenses up, you can see that it doesn't protrude past this lip. And even if it did, the back is so padded, like we mentioned earlier, that you cannot feel any of the gear in the back at all. Also, in the side areas of the inner compartment, VSGO have added these little storage areas that are perfect for things like batteries. And as I mentioned earlier, you have a sizable side access flap as another means of getting your camera out on the fly. And it's not undersized like it is on many other camera backpacks, so even with a big lens, you'll find it easy to slide your camera in and out of this area. So yeah, overall a very spacious main compartment in the back that will easily allow you to store, say, 2 camera bodies and plenty of lenses. But I will show an example loadout later. The main compartment also has this separator flap that has 3 zippable storage areas. It's got 2 on the top facing side and 1 on the bottom, which I wouldn't be storing anything too big in here, but it's great for lens caps, it's great for batteries, SD cards, and things of that nature. It's also a little bit of extra added security for your gear, as if somebody were to open the back of this backpack when you were walking, or if somebody just didn't know how to open the bag, your gear is going to stay in place thanks to this zippable divider. The laptop compartment of this bag is huge. It can store up to a 17-inch laptop, and it's very spacious, so thicker laptops will not be an issue. And it's very well padded, which is great for the protection of your laptop and great for comfort as well, as you're not going to feel that laptop dig into your back. It also has a magnetic clasp, which I love, as it's going to stop your laptop from flying out if you were to just drop this side panel. I actually wish they employed this magnetic clasp in more areas of the bag, like the sternum strap, for example. So that's a nice touch here at least. Okay, so here is an example of how I might load out this backpack whilst keeping in this top access platform. So on the top, I have my Canon C70 cinema camera with the RF 50mm 1.2. That's not actually the lens I would typically use on that. I'd use the 15-35, but I'm filming on that right now. And as you can see, there's still a good inch or 2 of space here. So you could absolutely no problem get a slightly larger lens on this. So this top access area will easily store any camera. I would guess it would even store, say, an R3. And in the main compartment, I have 2 lenses stored on their own. One is the 70-200, stood up of course, and one is the RF 24mm 1.8. Just because I'm running out of lenses to put in here, but again, you could have, say, a 24-70 stood up in here, absolutely no problem. And below the 70-200, I have the Fujifilm X100V, and next to it I have the Canon 300V. And on the final side, at the side access area, I have my Canon R5 with the 35mm 1.8 with some batteries stored above it. And again, you can see there's like 4 or 5 inches above here. So you could get, again, the 15-35 on here, the 24-70, or any other kind of prime lens, no problem. So there's still room to spare in this back compartment, even here when I have 4 camera bodies and 2 lenses stored. And in this divider section, I have my ND filter. So this is also great for lens caps and things like that. So yeah, overall, this is a good example of the sheer amount of gear that you can get into this backpack. This is great for me because I'm often going out and comparing multiple cameras and multiple lenses, and up until now, I've not really had a backpack that will allow me to carry all of that, especially not comfortably. So that's why I'm loving this new 25 litre of the black Snipe backpack. And here's a quick look at an example loadout with a long lens where you might not want to use that top access platform. So I've took that out here and laid down my Canon R5 with the 70-200 face down. And this should hopefully show you that you can get a much bigger lens in there while still having plenty of room for other camera bodies and other lenses. Okay, on to some cons of this backpack, or areas that I would like to see improved. And the first one is a similar criticism that I had in the last backpack, and that is that it's great that this bag has side access, but it is only on one side. And I would love to see it on both sides, or to be honest, for me, I'd like it if they would just swap which side it's on, because I like to sling my backpack around this way and grab my camera out with my right hand, then I'm ready to shoot. But on this backpack, it's on the opposite side, so it just feels slightly awkward getting your camera out for me personally. But if you mainly get lenses out of that side access area, It won't bother you at all, and again, for me, I prefer to use the top access area anyway. One con I have is with the straps, and although they are very comfortable and easy to adjust, they are perhaps a little too easy to adjust, as sometimes when taking the camera bag off or putting it back on again, I found myself accidentally loosening the straps, so I'd have to retighten them to get them to a place that's comfortable again. And I think they could have solved this by doing what they did with these side straps, where there's like a clickable cinch that means that they are secure and the straps can't be adjusted anymore. So I would like to have seen them do something similar with these main straps. My final complaint is with the top access clasp, and it's simply that because you're going to be laying your backpack down face forward quite a lot to access the back compartment, this gets scratched up really easily and shows wear quite quickly. So that's just something to be aware of. But that's it. Those are the only real downsides to this backpack, I suppose, other than the fact that it is relatively expensive. I think right now in the UK, the backpack is priced around £249 on Amazon. But to be fair, compared to similar sized backpacks from rival brands, like I say, the bigger brands like Peak Design and Nomadic especially, that is actually quite a bit less than the competition. Again, I own and use a lot of bags from those expensive rival companies, and in my opinion, this bag matches their build quality while still being less expensive. And in my experience, you can get a lot more gear in this bag than you can from similar sized bags from rival brands that I own too. So that is my review of the new 25 litre VSGO Black Snipe backpack. A big thanks to VSGO for sending this bag to me to check out, and I'll probably release a follow-up video later on in the year as I have a lot of trips and travels planned, and it'll be interesting to see how this bag holds up. If you want to pick up this bag or just learn a little bit more about it, there are links in the description. And I think right now on Amazon there is a 10% off voucher, so that makes this bag a little bit cheaper too. But let me know down in the comments what you think of this new Black Snipe backpack. And if you have any questions at all regarding the backpack, leave them down below and I'll try my best to answer. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.